Hello. Hello, this is the My Artifact episode number 3814. Today's date is January 13, 2026. It's been almost like a afternoon at 1:54 p.m. Let's just jump into the question. Let's go. Alright, the question is, what if dream unlock hidden talent? Okay, that's a really good question. Okay, first of all, what exactly is this question and why am I asking this question to myself? This is what if question. Why am I asking this question to myself? What if question is always been really interested way to give the answer. It kind of like a force me to think about that reality. When I try to think about that reality or when I try to create that reality inside of my mind, I'm kind of like utilizing my knowledge and information and experience that I've been through. And somehow it kind of like felt good. Disclaimer, the information that I'm trying to tell you is not exactly right or is not exactly wrong either. It's a raw, it's unfiltered, it's just my opinion. So do not believe in any kind of like information that I'm saying or do not seek for any kind of like information that I'm saying. It's just my opinion and opinion are subjective. Now regarding about the question says that what if dreams unlock the hidden talent? Now what exactly is this question? Like imagine that you went to sleep and you are kind of like dreaming about skateboard. Okay, yeah. So you are kind of like dreaming about skateboard and you are kind of like a dream about the entire night. And you wake up morning and suddenly you are doing a skateboard kind of like very nicely. It's kind of like a thing that in your dream you are kind of like learning things. Okay, yeah. So what if such thing will gonna happen, then what would be that particular world? First of all, it's not happen. Okay, yeah. Why it's not? Okay, why it's not? Okay, let me tell you one thing. If you wanted to learn any kind of like a skill, it's not just happen because of how it should supposed to be happen. It should supposed to be happen through kind of like assembly your muscle memory. Like let me tell you one thing. The memory that you have is not the memory is actually on your brain. Sometimes the memory is actually on your muscles too. A muscles could kind of like a somewhat something holds some sort of memories too. If you're still not really understanding this concept, then okay, yeah. Like a learn bicycle. Okay, yeah. When you learning bicycle, you are understanding everything. You know the mechanism of how the bicycle runs and things like that. Okay, you just have to put the pedal and things and that. If you move faster, then probably you will not gonna fall and things like that. You will know the entire mechanism about the how big a bicycle works and things and that and that. But still you cannot able to kind of like a drive the bicycle. When you try to learning the bicycle, you might gonna fall multiple times. Why? Because of that, at first time you don't know how it should supposed to be happen. You don't know exactly this thing. Like let me tell you one thing, when you drive the bicycle, our body is kind of like understanding that the bicycle how it should supposed to drive. Our gyroscope, we have also gyroscope too, which understanding the balance. That's why we didn't really fall while we are walking and running, things like that. Same thing should supposed to be implement while doing kind of like assembly the bicycling. When do are kind of like a doing bicycle, our gyroscope is try to understand, should we balance ourselves, should we balance the bike, or what exactly is this thing. It's kind of like somebody is this thing that our gyroscope is not really understanding that who we should supposed to be prioritize and things like that. Another thing is that when we do the paddle, like when we are pushing the paddle, then probably it's kind of like imbalance happen, because when we push the paddle, one side of the bicycle kind of like somebody take too much amount of force, so that's why we fall. So it's kind of like a very difficult to do this thing. Like our brain knows everything that how the bicycle works and things like that, but our muscle memory are not understanding this thing that how it kind of like something do this stuff and stuff like that. It takes time. That's why we fall multiple times when do our kind of like bicycling and things and that. Okay, and after a couple of time, after you kind of like still wake up and kind of like do the bicycling, kind of like takes at least like a 1 or 2 week, then after that you were kind of like started learning a bicycle, because you were kind of like some your muscle memory understand that how do we supposed to ride the bicycle and things like that. It's not a kind of like some information that you download and just suddenly you just kind of like started doing bicycle or started doing skateboard. It's not, definitely not. Okay, yeah. So this is what it is. And sometimes those muscle memory are very much essential, because like basically I am kind of like a really good at bicycle, I can bicycle and things like that. So basically at this time I don't have to kind of like a push myself too much to kind of like a ride the bicycle or thing like that. I could kind of like simply while doing bicycle, I was kind of like think very differently, or maybe I was kind of like listening music or things like that, or maybe it's just like that my muscle memory are kind of like so used to do a bicycle, so it's kind of like a became autopilot. It just I don't really knew it that I'm kind of like doing paddles or things and that and that. It's actually happened with you too. So what I'm trying to tell you is this thing: even if we are in the dream, we could learn things, but we would not gonna kind of like simply implement that skill in the real world, because real world really required a kind of like a human intervention or human kind of like a touch or things like that. It will not gonna happen. Like imagine that ki I wanted to learn the app development, I wanted to learn the Android Studio and things like that. Now I could imagine I could learn everything that ki, oh, if I would do this thing and that, if I would do this thing and that, if I would do this thing and that, may I able to kind of like implement this thing? Well, definitely not. Why is this that? Because of that, there are so many factors are actually involved. Let me tell you one thing: when you are maybe dream, things are happen very smoothly. Like your laptop might be really good, or maybe everything is kind of like a really good, but in reality, there are kind of like a lot of kind of like consequences happen. Might be your laptop get crashed, or maybe server are not really going really well, or things and that. Because in the world, in the dream world, everything is kind of like happen according to you. So probably you will not gonna face that much resistance, but in reality you will gonna face a lot of resistance, because reality is kind of like simply merged with a lot of things. Like basically it's not actually happen on you, it's actually depend and rely on so many factor. You are gonna kind of like a doing app development thing, but your laptop is not properly working, or maybe kind of like internet is not actually working, or maybe kind of like a somebody some sort of prompt is kind of like a somebody creates a bug, that's why it app get crash and things like that. And you are trying to find that what is actually that reason for why your app get crash and things like that. You are trying to figure it out and things and that. There are a lot of things that actually happen in dream scenario. Everything happens so smoothly because it's a dream, it's your imagination. Everything should supposed to be happen according to you, but in reality it's not happened like that. Okay, yeah. There is some sort of kind of like a thing that you might gonna develop while you are kind of like a something things, but I don't really think that good. It's not. You cannot be able to kind of like become a kind of like a really super cool chef or really expert chef in just dreaming about that. No, it's not. It's a kind of like a things that na ki try to achieve kind of like a goal in a very shortcut way, and that is not. Because everything that you have to learn, Photoshop, photography, videography, editing process, app development, anything that you need or everything that you gonna learn, it really required not only just a brain but lot of things. Like imagine that ki I wanted to learn the Mandarin, and I could kind of like assembly dream about the Mandarin. Will I able to speak Mandarin next day? No, definitely not. Why is that? Because my tongues are not bent in that way so that I would supposed to be kind of like a speak the Mandarin that much. Because even if I know the words, I am not really able to speak this stuff, because it's not for me. I'm kind of like speaking this English as good as right now. Almost like a 2 year ago, I was not able to speak that much, but I was kind of like being consistent regarding about this thing, talking this artifact episode. Right now I'm bit really consistent, right now I'm bit really kind of like confident enough to I can talk in English. But still there is a kind of like a problem too. I realized that I could kind of like talk very smoothly in artifact, but when there is a person in front of me, I am kind of like a fumble. And this is actually happened that key I speak English in front of this artifact, but I never really speak on in front of the people, which is kind of like simply creates a problem and things like that. Experience is really essential. Okay, yeah. Or it like basically your external scenario is affecting your skills. Like let me tell you one thing: you are kind of like a really good piano artist, you are kind of like a somebody playing piano so well, so good, but you might gonna scared when you are kind of like playing this piano in front of hundreds of people. And because of you might gonna scared, you might not gonna perform that much well, because you didn't really know how to kind of like somebody make sure you're silence, or make sure you have to be kind of like a patience and things like that. It's not. Our skills we learn is not because of just we skill, is because of we learn from multiple factor, and also we learn from all this external scenario how much it affect, and from that external scenario we try to learn from that. Okay, yeah, so this is what it is, this is what kind of like a things. Okay, it's not just happened by kind of like a simply dreaming about things and we just kind of like a learn and things like that. Another thing is that ki dreams are cannot able to control. I don't know what kind of like a dream that I would supposed to be dream, because dreams are not meant to be controlled. It's meant to be, I don't know. I dream so many stuff that I just can't even remember stuff. So if I don't really remember my dream, how do I supposed to remember the skills that I kind of like assembly learn in this dream? Okay, yeah, I don't know, it's not, but still, okay, let's just imagine this particular world that if we could kind of like simply learn things in a dream, then what would be that particular world? Now in this particular world, then probably sleeping would be kind of like a very much essential thing. In today's world, sleeping are also really essential thing, but in this particular scenario, in this particular world, sleeping are considered to be utmost really essential, because you will not gonna get rest, but as well as you kind of like learn more. So probably people are actually sleeping more, probably maybe 7 hour, 8 hour, 10 hour, okay, yeah, which is equivalent today, but has a kind of like some special things that we should supposed to sleep. Okay, yeah, there are so many products are kind of like assembly innovate to kind of like get the sleep properly. Still we have that, we have kind of like a very good mattresses are kind of like a really good for sleeping and things like that, but in this particular world, sleeping would be kind of like a very much essential thing. Another thing is that people will not gonna disturb, or alarm will not gonna exist. Okay, yeah, like basically alarm is always kind of like a little disturbing, or kind of like a break the sleep pattern or things like that. But in this particular world, alarm shouldn't supposed to be exist, or maybe alarm might be exist, but probably not for the kind of like a sleep, or not want to kind of like a interpret the kind of like a break the sleeping cycle and things like that. We shouldn't supposed to do this thing, because in the sleeping we are kind of like a learning more and more. Okay, yeah, because of we are kind of like a learning more in sleeps, that's why we are not kind of like a putting the effort of kind of like a learning physical things. Okay, yeah, school. Okay, yeah, because school are meant to be kind of like a learn things, but in this particular world, sleeping are kind of like a somewhat something kind of like a matter. So in the school, they kind of like a teachers that how do we supposed to be sleep, or how do we supposed to control our dreams and things like that, so that we should supposed to be learn things. Okay, yeah, and maybe the kind of like assembly the time required to do school may be kind of like a 2 hour or 3 hour, that's it. Like in today's world, school are meant to be at least like a 5 hour, but in this particular world, the school are meant to be just like a 2-3 hour, that's it. Okay, for a dream have to be kind of like a get a sleep, and for the proper sleep you need to get a kind of like a physical workout and things like that, because if you didn't really work out, or if you didn't really do kind of like external activity, then you might not gonna kind of like a tired, and if you not really get tired, then you might not get sleep very much properly. So you have to do kind of like a lot of kind of like a external activity, like a running or bicycling or things, or maybe badminton or things and that, so that you will get tired, and when you get tired, when you get sleep, you will kind of like a sleep very peacefully. Okay, during the night, people might not eat anything, or maybe most of people kind of like eat before the 7 p.m. After the same 7 p.m., people will not gonna eat anything at all. Because of that, when you eat too much, then it's kind of like a really not good for the sleep. So probably people are kind of like eat before the 7 p.m. and after the 7 p.m. they will not gonna eat anything. Even if there is emergency, probably they might gonna consume liquid food, but still coffee would not gonna include in this thing. Coffee or any kind of like a beverages will not gonna include. Maybe kind of like a light food or something like that, light liquid food, that's it. But coffee is not. Okay, coffee or tea will not gonna include after the 7 p.m. from probably things like that. Okay, so there are so many things, like basically as a thing now, the entire world would gonna prioritize regarding about sleeping and things like that, which is also really essential too. Like a sleep are really essential, but still what I'm realized that key it's not really good. Okay, sometimes maybe we will have kind of like such a technology that we could control our dreams, or maybe we would kind of like see the dreams in I don't know what gonna do things and that. It's a kind of like a completely different scenario and stuff like that. But still, what I understand that key dreams shouldn't supposed to be controlled. Dreams should supposed to be kind of like a simply just dreams. It's not. I don't know. Okay, yeah, because in my period of like I was kind of like a simply really excited or really enthusiastic regarding about what I dream and things like that. Like basically, I know a couple of year ago, I was kind of like a simply dream anything. I just kind of like a wake up and kind of like a record that I was kind of like a dreaming like this and that and that. And then I realized that it's a kind of like it's so stupid that I'm doing it this, because dream are not meant to be controlled. Dream are just, yeah, dream, that's it. Okay, yeah, you just have to be kind of like a sleep is really essential, and you have to be sleep very nicely. At least like a 7 hour is really essential. And yeah, for the 7 hour of sleep, yeah, and dream is just like a part of this. Yeah, whatever, this is just my opinion regarding about that. Okay, this is it, this is done, and thank you.